right. How are you guys doing this morning? I hope you're having a great morning this today. It has been one of those days, you wake up and the kids are out for the summer and just kind of like, oh, I got to get up because the kids are up. And it's 6 a.m. and it's supposed to be summer. And you're like, I thought I was going to get at least another hour of sleep, but nope, not happening now. Anyways, it works out. Let me pull this a little closer. I'm sorry. I just realized that it was a little far away. But anyway, we are continuing part three of our series Margin. Margin is what we have that is excess outside of everything. And primarily we're talking about is margin in our time. Are you filled up to the gills and stressed out to the max? Are you? I will say a lot of times I am. And I've got, I've told you guys sometimes my calendar, like, they'll have the whole day full and then things will be stacked on top of each other because I have overlapping appointments and different things like that. So sometimes, yeah, it's like, hey, I need to end this meeting pretty quickly so I can get to the next one, or I need to do this so I can get to the next thing. And it's always so quick, so fast. Our life paces, we end up, I told you a while back, we feel guilty if we're not busy. And it's hard to have that mentality or hard to get out of that mentality. You sit there and go, Jesus, what happened? Like, everything just kind of spiraled out of control. I don't know when it took place, but it just happened. Kids happened, marriage happened, life happened. And I now realize I don't have any time for me. And that's why we're going through this series, Margin. It is a technical term that means the excess. In a business, a lot of businesses say we don't have margin to do X, Y, or Z because they don't have extra capital to invest in that. And that's the same way in our lives. We don't have extra time that we can invest in things that we need to invest in. And so we've got to stop and slow down and create that place of margin. We're so stressed. I don't know about you guys, but when I get stressed, I get anxious. I feel like, my heart is pounding out of my chest sometimes because I'm running on that adrenaline. I'm not running on rest. And see, when you start having margin in your life, and one of the things that I started doing, and just to give you a little heads up into my life, I am no better than anybody else because I sit there and say, don't do these things, and then I turn around and do the exact same thing. Like I said, I've got appointments stacked on top of appointments. I've got to end meetings early to be able to be on time for the next one. I've got to rush out of the house to get to the next thing, and that's kind of my life. And I'm sitting here preaching, you should have margin. Like, you should create margin in your life. Well, I'm the biggest offender of it all. And so this series is not just for you, but for me also. We have all got to create space in our lives. And today I want to talk about creating space to help you manage stress. You're like, Shane, I don't know if you understand that I'm stressed out because I've got a lot to do. And if I don't get it all done, then I'm probably going to be fired. And if I don't get all of whatever it is done by X deadline, then my world could potentially end. And that's the thing. Like, we oftentimes create a place that is unhealthy. And sometimes you unintentionally do it, and sometimes your bosses unintentionally do it because they're under just as much pressure as you. A lot of times your bosses will sit there and say, hey, I need this done, this done, this done by this date, this date, this date. And you're just like, I've got 5,000 other things on top of what you just gave me that I've got to do for deadlines that happen before those. And so you accept the work and you don't give feedback that, hey, I'm drowning here. And I know a lot of corporate cultures aren't as understanding as others. And I get that. Sometimes you just have really bad bosses. Like, I get that. But at the same time, I want to talk about the things you can control. Some of those things are out of your control. They are. They are completely and utterly out of your control. It had what happens at work sometimes has nothing to do with you. It's just the cards were dealt sometimes. But let's talk about the times outside of work that you have. Your home life. Are you creating margin in your home life? Are you creating a place where you can have margin in your home life? It's hard. We've got two kids. They're out for the summer. We work from home, and then I've got part-time other things that I do and freelance doing other things. And yeah, anyway, it's crazy around here. And the thing is, somewhere in the middle of it, I've got to create a margin in my life to be able to have time with God. And this is what we're going to talk about, having margin to deal with stress. You know, Oftentimes, I'm guilty. We want to go home or we want to stop working and we want to just go veg on Netflix. I don't have Netflix, I have Disney Plus, and right now I'm going to admit that I am vegging on Agents of Shield. That's my current veg. But those things sometimes are not what we need to do. Those are things that we do to cope. And let's move from a place of just coping with life to move to a place where we are vibrant and we are fulfilled. See, I've got to cut off Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. For one, because I don't want my son watching it. It's got a lot of violence and a lot of shooting and stuff like that. And my 7-year-old is not quite at that place where he understands those things. So I don't watch them in front of him. So that means it gets pushed further out because I want to be with my family. And when I get off, I go play with him or we go outside. We do different things. My wife is awesome in coming up with just fun things that we do outside. And so I'll go play with them. And that's life giving. Instead of sitting on the sofa, I go and spend time with my family. I try not to have my device on. Try. Sometimes there are those instances where it happens. But I try not to be consumed with my device or whatever it is that allows me to disengage from the moment of being with my kids. And see, that's a way that that's a better way of handling stress. Going be with my family, disengaging from everything. Instead of sitting there on the sofa coping with a vegging session of Agents Marvel Shield or Shield Age, whatever the name is. But the thing is, let's look at how Jesus handled things. It says one of the greatest examples of how Jesus lived with margin was at the end of his life. On the evening before his most difficult day, Jesus took time away from his disciples in the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus knew that in order for him to have the stamina and energy to bear the weight of the world's sin on the cross the next day, he would have to take time to rest and prepare. Jesus wasn't running around making sure everything was ready or worrying about disciples. Instead, he was focused and knew that in order to do the one thing his Father sent him to earth to do, he would have to take time for himself and rest. Instead of letting stress manage you, we've got to learn how to manage our stress by creating the margin in our lives and have those intentional times of rest and relaxation. We have to have those intentional spaces. I told you yesterday that one of my favorite things is I love shampooing the carpet. I know it's really weird. but I love shampooing the carpet. The lines and cleaning, it just is soothing. I don't know why. And then I like doing the floors in my house. I can't. We have hardwood floors. We have kids. We have dogs. They live outside, and I'm not talking about just the dog. And they track everything inside. And so sweeping and cleaning all that, it gives me relaxation and comfort. A lot of people call it comfort cleaning. But those are things that I do that relaxes me. And what are you doing that's relaxing and rejuvenating you? When was the last time you took a Sabbath? You know, oftentimes Sabbath, there you're like, "Oh, it's a Sunday and I didn't work." No, that's not what a Sabbath is. A Sabbath is a time that you take, or a day, I should say, that you take and intentionally spend it with God. When was the last time you did that? In this hustle and bustle, we tend to say we take a Sabbath by going to church. We tend to take a Sabbath by just attending a service, and we say that was our Sabbath. No, no, that's not your Sabbath. That's you getting refilled. That's not your Sabbath. In my opinion, a Sabbath is spending time with God for an extended period. That's a Sabbath. And resting with Him and getting rejuvenated by Him and with Him. That's my opinion of a Sabbath. And that's what we see in Scripture Jesus doing in the Garden of Gethsemane. He got away, and it says he rested with the Father. Let's go ahead and read that. That is Matthew 26, 36 through 46. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the two sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch for me." Going a little farther, he fell on his face on the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." See, a lot of times we think resting is sleeping. And Jesus is saying, no, being with the Father, that's where you get that rejuvenation. That's where you get that peace. That's where you are able to. He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away, unless I drink it, may your will be done." When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the third time, saying the same thing. Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." See, during those moments, this kind of shows the other side. If we don't rest, if we're not spending time with Jesus, it says right here, "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." God intended for you to spend time with Him, to be relaxed and rejuvenated, so that way you can walk out in your purpose and destiny. And when we don't have those times, that's when temptation creeps in. That's when sin creeps in. That's when a little flirting at the office turns into something else. That's when going around and being with your friends, drinking creeps in, or other things creep in. Maybe a little too much alone time, pornography creeps in. See, those times that we should have created margin and been with God, and we didn't. temptation then creeps in. And that's the consequence of not having margin in your life to relax with Jesus. I will constantly say um, in this series that we've got to rest in Jesus. We have to create the margin to spend time with Him. Because through those times, that's where true rest and peace and rejuvenation is found. Guys, I can't emphasize this enough. If we don't create time, that's where the bad stuff really starts to creep in. I told you, everything's happened and we just kind of lost control of life. It's because we didn't create margin. We didn't create time to be with Jesus. And that's when we lost control. See, Jesus, I know you're like, I don't have time to do that. The thing is, I've noticed when I spend time with Jesus, I get exponential return on my investment. I'm able to supernaturally do things that I didn't think I was going to be able to accomplish because I spent time and put Jesus as my priority. So guys, what are you doing today that actually creates margin in your life for you to spend time with Jesus and have rest and relaxation in Him? And rest and relaxation in your life, period. Love you guys, and I hope that you're taking this to heart. I hope that you're watching this and understanding that my heart, I'm completely and utterly guilty of all of this. I am maybe the number one offender of creating margin in my life. But I fight hard to have those moments. I fight hard to keep that as a priority because it can slip real fast, especially in the crazy busyness that we call lives. I love you guys, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow. This has been a great series, and again, we're going to do this for 15 days, and so that is exciting that we'll be able to talk more and more about creating margin in